Have you ever broken up with someone and had them go full crazy on you as a result? Story 1, yes. When we were together, he drew a picture of me. It was ugly. I hated it. We had a massive argument not about the picture, which I thought was the end of us, so I threw the picture out. We made up. He discovered I'd thrown out the picture. He started going mad and throwing anything he could grab at me, plates, plants, vases, etc. Then he left. I thought that would be the end, because it was such a scary outburst, but no. Hey race a snippet of the next few months. Constant mystery phone calls from people who would insult my appearance. Sometimes whole groups of people singing about how ugly I was. He showed up at the same gig as me and threatened me for daring to be in the same room as him. He raised his fist to me before being dragged away by a random passer, by thank you whoever you are. After calling the police on him and them cautioning him for harassment, he photoshopped a picture of my number calling his phone and told the police it was me harassing him. He started telling people about his plans to kill me. One girl I didn't know was so worried about me she tracked down my details through mutual friends and called me. She could go into huge detail about my flat and all the escape routes I could use and how he was going to block them all off. Apparently, he wanted to keep my eyeball for trophies. 4 years later, he still shows up on certain websites asking for nudes of me. Story 2, I broke up with a girlfriend I had for about a week during the summer. Mind you, I didn't really know her that well, which is the reason I broke up. We were moving too fast. She reacted to the breakup by using some kind of karate move to get me on the ground, then held me there for about 20 minutes while she screamed random at me. Then she turned me around, pulled down my trousers, and spit on my. She then licked it up and left. I still have no idea what happened. Edit, I didn't see this one going to 1666 upvote. So, long-time lurker just found his thread back when more blood flowed to my nethers than my brain. I dated some crazy. I was 20, she was 18. I had just moved into my first apartment alone. An old Victorian home converted into a quadruplex, so it had 14-foot ceilings and big windows that spanned the walls. The breakup itself wasn't too bad. IRC some crying, sadness, and angry words. It was later that she went psycho. About a week later, she stopped by for some things she left. I gave them to her and went to go get lunch. While I was gone, she broke into the apartment and trashed the place. The carnage, she broke 23 panes of glass with her bare hands. I knew because of the blood everywhere. She smashed my computer and microwaved all my 5 floppy disks. She overturned my TV and dressers, but not before strewing my clothes everywhere. She broke most of my dishes. She overturned my futon. Yes, I was in the futon of shame stage in life. All of this was to prepare for the icing on the cake. She set off a fire extinguisher, covering everything in a winter wonderland of flame-retardant dust. Before leaving, she tacked a calling card to the wall, a picture of a place special to us as a couple. It had her blood on it. When a mustachioed cop came to investigate, he looked around at the devastation and said, "What'd you do to her off?" Her family called and convinced me to not press charges. She was found with all of her clothes stuffed in her car. Attempting to skip town, her father repaired all the windows and made her spend the next couple days cleaning everything up. During that time, in my infinite wisdom at that age, I reinserted mine crazy for some awesome breakup. TLDR, X shatters, splatters, tatters, scatters, and Rex Tech. Doesn't matter had, edit formatting. Story 3, I broke up with him because ID asked him to stop screaming at me in public when he was angry. And he wouldn't. Now he tells anyone on Reddit who will listen I'm a sociopath. Story 4, yeah, I broke up with this guy once over the phone, and he completely ignored me and said, "You didn't say that. You need to come and say it to my face. If you do that, he'll believe you." Okay, so I went to his house and broke up with him a second time. It took him about 10 minutes of trying to convince me before he let me leave. Right when I left, the calls and texts started happening. I purposely ignored 50 of his calls within 20 minutes and received countless texts. But the kicker was he left me a voicemail that sounded like he was dying. He was making weird gasping sounds as he was crying on the message while saying stuff like, "Oh God, I'm dying. I can't breath. Help me, I drank beer on my pills, and I'm dying. You need to come back. You can only save me." See, he was a major binge drinker. He didn't drink all the time, but when he did, he would drink like 20 beers in one night. To stop him from drinking so much, he got these pills that make people feel horrible if they drink beer. I think it's one of those ways to cure alcoholism, but I'm not sure. After that voicemail, I got a text that read something like, "I know where you live, and I'm going to personally come and speak to your father about this. And if things don't go my way, well, you've been warned." He never did show up, but man, that guy was a drama queen. Story 5, when my ex and I broke up, he wrote me a book. One day, a full-on hard copy book arrived in the mail, just like things about me, funny stories from when we dated, pictures some he drew, etc. I could barely read it, but by the time I got 23 through the book, the page just simply read, "I love you. Come back to me now, or the rest of my life will just be an attempt at second best." I went to his wedding a few years later. He still seems miserable. Edit to add, I think he would have been miserable under any circumstance. Even with me, I think I was the least miserable route available. Story 6, sorry for doing the classic AskReddit thing. Not me, but one of my best friends had this happen. We're in college. He had this good-looking GF who we kind of figured out a few months and was pretty crazy. The type where every time you go out something happens, where she ended up making a scene or being in a fight with somebody. Usually him. So one day he goes to her house and does the we gotta talk thing. Now this was fairly late at night, around 11 p.m. or so. Calmly breaks up with her. She's not having it. Starts crying, screaming, calling him names, telling him she won't stand for it. Now hay race where it gets crazy. He takes off and heads towards his dad's house where he lived at the time. Halfway there, he notices her behind him in her car. She's calling his phone over and over, but he ignores her. He makes a bunch of moves to try to shake her like some sort of action movie, but she's running red lights and cutting people off and to keep up with him. Finally, he gets to his dad's, and they have this big fight in the street. At this point, he's pissed, so he gets a little more direct fuck you. We're over. If you don't quit stalking me, I'm calling the police. An hour more of fighting and rehashing every part of their relationship. And she finally leaves. Now past midnight, he goes to bed. His room was in the basement, and he's lying there when suddenly she wakes him up tapping on the window. She eventually actually kicks it in and starts to come in his house. The house alarm goes off, and his dad wakes up and finally goes nuts on her. They call the police off, but his dad screamed at her, and she finally went home. End of story. Story 7, I broke up with my high school girlfriend after she cheated on me with one of her close family friends. She was upset because she said she was just helping him through his breakup. Subsequently, she sent me detailed Facebook message about how she asked her friends to each spit on me at my senior prom. She also wrote on some of my female friends' walls with her Facebook profile and quoted me for the mean things she said. Story 8, I walked into the room and calmly started to explain how I think we should call it quits and move on. She immediately started crying before I could get the third word in and pleading that I don't go. It was rough, but that's when she pulled the I'm pregnant on me. I told her to get in the car, and we went to get a pregnancy test from CVS. Went back home, told her to go to the bathroom, and well, see, trust me, there was plenty of drama and fits during that trip. She was taking forever in the bathroom, and that's when I heard running water. She was trying to make a false positive. I opened the door and told her she had by Sunday to move out, been single ever since. Story 9, yes. I tried the It's Not You, It Is Me 7 or 8 times, the last time after the tears and garment rending. She asked me to marry her. I wasn't getting through. The only calm, successful breakup that I remember, I took her to the fanciest restaurant in the city, asked for a table in the middle of the room to cut down on the tears and hysteria. I told her that I was not happy in our relationship and that it was over. She calmly said, okay, and then ordered her meal. Story 10, my husband decided to leave, but I filed for divorce because I knew he'd never get around to it. Because 1, it required effort, and 2, it would mean that eventually he'd have to start paying his own medical bills. So, in that respect, I broke up with him. He tried to have me arrested. He reported me to CPS. He left vulgar, hate-filled voicemails for me. He called me dozens of times a day, saying terrible things to me and about my family. Things that were criminal and completely untrue. He tried to take my car and my house and the kids and the furniture and my computer. And through all this, he kept up a facade of complete normalcy to everyone he knew and blogged about what a terrible person I was and what a great person he was and how put upon he was and how he was getting screwed in the divorce and what a martyr he in fact was. So yeah, I'd say so. Also, he was mad that I would not continue to pay his car insurance, phone bill, and electronic toll car pass, even though I gave him 30 days to change them to his name, which I thought was pretty fair. I didn't just cut it off immediately. Story 11, I invited her over to my flat and tried to break up once, only to find out as I launched into the carefully prepared spiel that her parents had filed for divorce that morning. She descended into hysterics long before I could make it clear I was ending it. Being a kind-hearted guy total, I shelved the breakup for 4 months before the same issues drove me to try again. We had both just moved back into town for a new year of college and hadn't yet visited each other's homes. So this time, being a 19-year-old coward, I arranged for us to be in a bar, so she couldn't make too much of a scene and I could get away clean. She took it surprisingly well, all things considered, not even crying really. She accepted what I said, but asked that we stay friends. I readily agreed. She then said that her housemates weren't arriving back in town till the next day, and she had no plans all day, but didn't want to be alone. Would I mind coming round, and she could show me her new house anyway, and it would keep her mind off it. I stupidly agreed, as she didn't seem too upset. The walk was about 20 minutes, and as we got closer and closer, her pace got slower and slower. By the time we reached her road, she was shuffling, and the waterworks began. I managed to get her inside, and when I turned to put the kettle on for some tea, old school English emotion management skills, I turned back to find, without stopping bawling, she had stripped all of her clothes off. She made a frankly pretty pathetic attempt to turn me on while smeared in tears. I managed to bat her advances away and try to walk to the front door. Noticing abnormal resistance, I looked down to find she was clinging to my legs, lying naked and bawling on the floor, begging me not to go. Fast forward about 15 minutes, and ID managed to get her up to her room and calm her down a bit. No, I did not go for sexy times. Am not that stupid evil. I said that ID, checking on her the next day, kissed her on the forehead, said goodbye, and went downstairs to the door, locked from the inside. No key. I turn around, and she has moved to sitting on the top step of the stairs, still crying fully. In between sobs, she cries, "You can't leave me. I won't let you leave me." It takes me another 3 hours to try and calm her down and get her to give me the key before I gave up and searched for another out of this house terrorist. No backyard, locked back door, all downstairs windows nailed shut before I find an open upstairs window and let myself out by the drain pipe. My two buddies had been in the pub next door to the bar I originally tried to break up and waiting for me. ID completely forgotten about them. Being absolute true friends, they were still there when I got back, 4 or so hours after ID left them, propping up the bar and waiting for me with a pint of porter, which at room temp was perfect, was dating a girl in HS. Told me God told her in a dream that he had plans for her and that I was holding her back. Kind of came out of left field, and I was pretty hurt over it, but whatever. A couple days later, her friends asked me what was going on with her. All said she was talking to herself and acting really odd. Find out later on over the next couple months and years. She had a full mental breakdown and went from preacher's little girl to full-on, would blow anyone who would drop their pants. And if she could get 20 minutes of semi-privacy, BC, honestly, how much privacy are you going to get in an old F-150 farm truck sitting in a parking lot? She would them. Didn't matter who it was. She took the opportunity and did it. When her dad, the preacher, found out about it, he found her gigantic box of toys and hiding in her closet. Not through the town gossip mongers about what his daughter had been up to. He tried to exorcise her, as in expel the demons, which apparently caused another breakdown. BC, she went back to super uptight preacher's daughter. Lost track of her for a little while, then heard that she had run away, joined a Christian cult, and was now pumping out one kid almost every year between 2 or 3 husbands. Story 12. More often than not, I went to a competitive Catholic prep school. Dating those girls is a 5,050 shot of sticking urine crazy. I would say most rival stage of 5 clinger. I had 6 girlfriends in high school. 2 threatened suicide if I left. 1 went nuts and trashed a classroom, and the other smashed a $2,000 musical instrument. The other 2 were sane, thankfully. Story 13. Yep, twice. The first time was my first boyfriend. I broke up with him, and he proceeded to harass me for 3 months. Phone calls, texts, FB, showing up places. I was the second, wasn't abusive. When I finally broke up with him, he chucked a tantrum of epic proportion, told everyone I cheated on him, was pregnant by some other guy. Then a couple months later, was convinced I was hacking into his FB. Total nutter. Story 14. I broke up with a girl who went full emo psycho on me. Allow me to preface this by saying that she was a bright and bubbly redhead with quite an uplifting personality. Things went pretty well at the start, but she was constantly calling me and asking me where I was going, who I'd be with, why wasn't she seeing me more. Of course, my young high school brain was really not super interested in building a long-term relationship with her outside of getting past second base. So once the clinginess reached its peak with me, I broke it off, and then I went out to my car a few mornings after the breakup to a note that said, "You were Evelyn," dark black marker, taped to my car, and a rose that had long since died. Thinking it was a lame prank, I confronted a few friends, and they said that it wasn't any of them, but XGF had been acting a little strange lately. She apparently dyed her hair pitch black, and over the course of the next few weeks, would complete the full transformation from young and sweet to dark and creepy. I would continue to receive creepy messages once a week or so, complete with dead roses, until one day, she just walked in my ROTC class with a full-on morning dress, compelled with veil, handed me an entire dozen dead roses and said, "I brought you some roses. I'll leave you be now, MFWO." Story 15. Upon breaking up with my crazy, emotionally abusive ex-boyfriend, we were having a screaming match in the apartment we lived in together. In a fit of rage, he grabbed a strip of photos of the two of us that we took on the boardwalk in one of those photo booth thingies. He tries to tear the photos apart, but they wouldn't rip because of the laminate that covers them. This makes him even angrier, and he grabs a lighter with the hopes of the photos going up in flames as he dangles it over our bed. But with the photos being laminated and all, they just slowly started to melt. He is furious, and I'm trying to contain my laughter as it is completely absurd how hard he is trying to destroy these photos of us. Then the fire detector went off. Story 16. Yep, dated a girl in college for a few months. She cheated on me. So I broke up with her. She was completely insane, like actually mentally ill. Must have run the family. Her mom was a hoarder and was chronically unemployed. Her dad left them when she was 15, and her sister had 3 kids out of wedlock before her 18th birthday. After I broke up with her, she went off the rails. She started dating some weird dude and started telling him completely false stories about me. I didn't really care until she told him that I raped her completely untrue. He decided to come after me and teach me a lesson, and him in the National Guard, buddy. I know how to you up. I shrug it off. One night, I was going with my roommate to McDonald's to grab some milkshakes after we hit the gym, and when we got out of the car, we discovered this dude had been following us. He got out and confronted us. He took a swing at me almost immediately and punched me square in the face. I broke his nose. I was wearing my class ring from high school, and then my roommate, a very muscular, very Italian water polo player, completely knocked the dude out. We got the out of there immediately. A week later, she cheated on him and told her new guy that he had raped her. Insane. Fast forward 4 years, she got fat, got pregnant, had a baby, and then the daddy left her before the baby was born. Guess who currently has rape allegations against him? Yeah, he walked 30-ish miles to my house in the middle of the night to beg for me back and to ask if I had slept with my new boyfriend yet. Story 17. I dated this girl in high school. Man, she was hot, but she was high on the crazy scale. We dated for a few months and all was well, but I could see her turning into the real crazy that was her true form. I decided it would be prudent to break it off. We went out to dinner at the local Chinese joint sit-down, and we got some dinner. She always got shrimp fried rice, and I got my usual chicken cashew. After the dinner, I told her that we should no longer see each other, but could remain friends. She went nuts, throwing plates, poured her water on me, yelling the whole 9 yards. I paid and apologized, and she got a ride home from her mom. She didn't talk to me ever again. Breaking up after dinner. 710. Breaking up after dinner with shrimp fried rice. 1010. Story 18. I think I'm the one that went a little crazy when my ex-GF broke up with me. I didn't anything that nuts, but I definitely look back and see how many things I did that were unnecessarily guilt-provoking and self-pitying. Story 19. Does breaking up with a friend count? I lived with a friend of mine in a dorm in college. She was basically the kind of person who was passive-aggressive in every way. She got mad at me for no reason, and she was clingy to the point that she cried if I went off to do anything out of the room, i.e., spend time alone with my boyfriend at the time, because she didn't like being alone. Needless to say, it was a really toxic environment, so I told her I was done, and I was moving out. Cue the shouting matches, followed by the freaky texts where she kept calling me names and demanding an apology. She tried to turn everyone she knew at the small university we attended against me. So I got glares and stuff from people I'd never even seen before. She posted a lot of crazy and untrue things about me on Facebook. I was basically silent on the whole thing. I only talked to very close friends about the ordeal, and none of it on my end went on any social media accounts. She got her boyfriend in on it, too, and had him texting me the same stuff she was texting me, calling me names, trying to make me make up with her, all kinds of things like that. I eventually threatened to turn them both in for harassment if I got any more text, emails, messages, Facebook from them, and they left me alone. Edit to say, rereading, I don't think our dorm environment really came through to justify why I had to stop being friends with her, so I wanted to add that I was essentially a prisoner in my own dorm. I couldn't leave because I was afraid of what vindictive things shed due to get back at me for doing anything without her. To visit my boyfriend, I had to wait until after she fell asleep at night, so she wouldn't get mad at me for skipping out on time with her aside from class. I was stuck in our dorm until 10 p.m. every night. I heard from a very old friend a few months ago that her boyfriend, now husband, still talks about me, even though we haven't really had any contact in over 3 years, and I live 800 miles away now. They really can't let it go. Story 20. Yes, basically we were colleagues, and the guy was getting near 30, yet I was his first real relationship in a decade. And after about 6 months, I realized it wasn't going to work out. Guy proceeded to flip out because he'd rather have broken up with him not face-to-face or some such, because every breakup is perfectly executed. Am I right? And kept sending me emails analyzing every situation during our relationship in which I may have not acted in a flattering light. This continued for over 6 months. He'd do stuff like threaten that we couldn't be friends anymore if I didn't apologize for this or that, or kept trying to dictate ways I was doing things and the like, even threatening work-related stuff in an attempt to get me to answer. Basically, there were some work-related emails I did have to respond to, otherwise I would have just blocked him, but I never acknowledged any of the crazy ones. Oh, and along the way, he kept emailing me helpful things about my work that were clearly him trying to inject himself into my stuff. but in such a way that I was the crazy one if I thought he was doing this. Basically, a ton of gaslighting like you wouldn't believe about both my personal and professional life. In hindsight, I probably should have told my advisor what was going on, but it would have been really awful for everyone involved to get into that, and honestly, I was kind of embarrassed about being involved in the entire thing. Finally, one night, when Head tried to undermine me yet again in the collaboration, and I came home from work dinner a little tipsy, seeing what Head done yet again, I sent him an email saying just because ID broke in his heart, it didn't mean he had an excuse to be it for the rest of his life to me. And that toned things down once he realized I might report him. I still get the helpful for work, but really try to impose emails every few months. But all in all, yeah, I haven't had a boyfriend since, and sure as will never consider a colleague again. Story 21 ITT. I can't see red flags worth. Judge people with mental illness all you want, but if you have more than one crazy ex, you're not the best when it comes to dating either. Story 22 Yes, multiple times with the same woman, and I'm still with her. The craziest thing she did. She cries like crazy, and I mean, man, oh man, she mourns, she screams, I need to get out. Story 23 When I was a freshman in college, I started dating a guy who went to a different college. We saw each other pretty often. Life was good. We dated all through my sophomore year as well, and then lived together that summer in LA, his hometown. Then I went off for my junior year abroad in Hong Kong, while he decided to drop out of college and move back in with his parents in LA. About a month into my year abroad, he called me up and started ranting at great length about Jesus, which was weird because he was an atheist who was raised Jewish. It was pretty obvious to me that he was high as he was making no sense at all. After a couple more higher than the stratosphere international phone calls, I told him we were through, as I had no interest in being in a relationship with an insane drug addict. Shortly thereafter, his sister calls me in a panic saying that he has disappeared and nobody knows where he went. They think he's suffered a psychotic break. Eventually they find him, though, and get him into treatment, and he leaves me alone from that point forward. Cut to several months into my senior year of college. Over a year since crazy and I broke up. One night, I'm out on a date when my phone starts blowing up with texts. There's a text coming in every few seconds, spouting absolute meaningless nonsense. Calling me chicken shit over and over, saying things like it's all about the size of the, isn't it? He was obsessed with penis size and apparently believed it was literally the only thing that mattered to women. The psycho texting went on for hours with hundreds and hundreds of texts coming in until I finally called his mother and straight up tattled on him. I told her to get her son under control before I got the police involved. The texting stopped. A few weeks later, it happened again, and again I tattled to his mom. I think I have seen chicken shit misspelled every possible way by now. It has now been over 7 years since we broke up, and he still texts me every few months to tell me I'm chicken shit and to insist that penis size is what made me stop loving him. He's certified insane. Also, he didn't have a small penis or anything. Not huge, but well within normal range, so I have no idea why he has such a complex about it. Nutcase, my ex-wife was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, so I shouldn't be surprised at what happened. 1, she immediately had me check her into a mental facility and then spent 7 hours convincing them not to admit her. 2, immediately decided that she was now coming out as a lesbian. 3, soon after she had come out as a lesbian, she decided she was in love with my girlfriend. This was not reciprocated by my now fiancé, but being the amazing girl she's decided to attempt to help my ex. This didn't last long and ended with another long wait in the lobby of a mental facility. 4, X decided that she has always wanted to be a man, researching changes, and began dating men and women in various stages of the change. 5, constant passive-aggressive texts hinting at suicide. There is more. So much more. Story 24 This guy broke up with me in college. I was devastated. 6 months later, he starts stalking me. He leaves a dough head on the windshield of my car during finals week. I call the cops. A manhunt starts. He denies all of it. Fast forward 10 years later, I never found out why he was stalking me, but he did finally admit to doing that. Story 25 I had this boyfriend throughout most of high school. Really horrible dude. One of those I have really low self-esteem, so he'll take it out on everyone else kind of guys. Told me once in an effort to get me to lose weight while we were still dating that. And I quote, each day, as my gut grew larger and larger, he became less attracted to me. And I was only 135 at the time, and he had really awful cystic acne, like sits bigger than my knuckles all over his entire body. Suit definitely was projecting anyways. When I broke up with him the first time, he blew up my phone with texts and phone calls about how no one would ever love me. I look like I have Down syndrome. I have the intelligence level of a retarded 6-year-old, etc. I threw out the poems he wrote for me, and he bawled his eyes out. It was fun, of course, because my self-esteem had been so broken down by that point that a few weeks later we were back together. The next time I broke up with him, it was actually civil and great, and I didn't talk to him for another 6 months. That's when the real crazy came out. I'd been hanging out with a group of people, and he was at a house next door. Didn't know he was there, go outside to smoke a cigarette. And he's there, start chatting me up because I had lost a good 20 pounds. When I dismissed him and didn't want to talk, he started screaming, that I was it was awful. I went home later that night and expected to be able to vent to my mom a little bit, but he had called her already claiming I was 3 different men over the age of 23. I was 17 at the time. My mom was livid and believed him over me. The real kicker came a few weeks later when I learned that my mom hired him to do bookkeeping at her office. Could not get rid of him. He would call for my mom. My mom would tell me when he asked about me at work. He came by once for dinner when I wasn't there. I eventually threatened a C and D, which got him to leave me alone, and went on to marry one of the guys he told my mom I was banging. So I guess there's that. ETA mentioned this to my brother, and he reminded me about the time ex-boyfriend threatened to drive his car through my living room and kill my family himself if I broke up with him. I blocked out a lot. The relationship itself was a lot crazier than the breakups, TBH. Yeah, he abducted me from my parents' house and put me in the trunk of his car. Ended in a high-speed police pursuit, and we crashed into a tree. I have the full story posted in my comments if anyone cares enough to look. Just sort by top. Story 26, my God. Something I can actually answer. The girl's dad went more crazy than she did. We were both 18 at the time I broke up with my ex. And she was like, yeah, let's be civil. A week later, my mom receives a phone call from her dad saying that he's going to kill 2 friends of mine because they pushed her at school. When I asked my friends about it, they told me they hadn't even seen her that day. The dad ended up saying to my mom, I'm going to break the neck of your son. And his mates, we were half laughing, half scared shitless because of how random the situation was. We called the cops, told them about it. When we got to school the next day, me and my friends had to write a report to the police, and my ex ended up admitting she lied about the encounter. And while the dad just stood there looking like an idiot, like the overreacting fuckwit, he was trying to death stare me. But the whole time I was thinking, your daughter, ha. Story 27, well, not me. But my friend has had his ex tell him to kill himself at least 9 times and verbally assaulted him over 40 times. She wants to sue him for calling her a dumb and the C word, but shall probably get wrecked since he has record of all the times she told him to commit suicide. Story 28, yep. When I was 16, I broke up with my first serious girlfriend. She went ballistic, called my house at 2 a.m., screaming that she'd kill herself unless I came to her house, and made up with her. I didn't because I didn't think she'd actually kill herself, and my mom wouldn't let me go, but I was really shaken. 2 weeks after that, she called me, and I answered because she wasn't screaming. She told me she was pregnant. I thought I was going to be a dad at 16, set everything else aside, and told her I'd be there for her. She wasn't pregnant. She did end up getting pregnant at 19 and having a kid, though. Pretty wild. Story 29, yes. To put this in context, we had a joke about ring pulls apparently being tokens for kisses, hugs, whatever, depending on the state of the ring pull. So after we break up, I get sent a CD Shed made for me. It was basically a very creepy CD of music that is either about killing yourself or about dying because someone's not with you. Then, a few months later, she sent a stuffed toy with several hundred ring pulls around its neck. Story 30, yep. I broke up with my boyfriend of 4 years, and he wouldn't leave me alone. For almost a month, my phone was going off literally every 5 seconds from him texting me. He showed up at my house, constantly messaged me on Facebook, persistently messaged my dad and sister on Facebook, sent flowers to my house. Even after weeks of not responding to him, he still wouldn't give up. Story 31, yup. Not flagged as stories, so it'll try to be brief. It's also something I posted about before, broke off an engagement, spent the next 4 months getting emails, text scouts, voicemails, Skype messages, calls, Facebook messages, comments from her. Several friends were dragged into it as well. After 4 months of her not seriously hurting herself, I finally got a new phone number and switched out most social media and email accounts. Still in a weird place regarding relationships because of it, more specifically my taste in partners.